in Britain, the argument is a very powerful democratic argument. We are now governed not by people we elect, but by people in Brussels who represent the big financial corporations and business and so on.
Is that how you see the European Union?
Well, I think that is what it's about. They're building an empire in Europe, and the European Union is not a very democratic one. I mean, for example, the commissioners who run Europe are not elected by anyone. They're just appointed by national governments. And I was a member of the Council of the European Link when I was Secretary of State, and I found that their attitude was it's all top-down, whereas the view I take is that politics should be bottom-up.
There's been reportedly, according to the media at least, an upsurge in discontent in Britain about our relationship with Europe, and it's led, some would argue, to the creation of the UK Independence Party, UKIP, who've done remarkably well in recent local elections. Some see that as a threat to Conservatism or the Conservative Party. They're saying in the next elections that discontent will be at such a level that UKIP may win significantly, and that there is this groundswell of anti-European Union membership. Do you think that's fair?
Well, if you go back to 1975, first of all, the campaign to get a referendum was a big one because the government didn't really want to consult the British people. When we got it, all the political leaders and all the newspaper proprietors were on one side, and those who were critics, as I was, of the European Union didn't really have much of a hearing. And we lost the campaign and we went in. And now, of course, the European Union is developing into an empire of its own, where every country has to fit in with a pattern. Greece has had its democracy taken away and its government imposed from Brussels. And I think there is discontent. And what we have to do is to find a sensible way of working with Europe, but not being a part of the system that is governed from Europe, because that would be the abandonment of our independent democratic rights.
So you would right now be in favour of a in or out referendum being held for the British people, would you?
Well, I think at some stage how you're governed is such a fundamental question. You have to consult the British people about it. And I think
Mr. Cameron seems to be unsure. I mean, his party seems to be divided about whether this referendum will ever take place and whether it should happen.
Well, we've had promises of referenda in the past and they haven't taken place, so people are a bit suspicious. But I think that will have to be decided, and when it is decided, people will be free to make up their minds what they want to do.
But will they? I mean, will the British government have the courage to offer the people a referendum? I mean, we're at a bit much of a crisis point now, aren't we, in terms of people's view of what Europe is doing for us or not?
Well, the reason that the British government would be doubtful, because they would suspect that the British people might vote against.
What do you think would be the consequence or the advantage or disadvantage of us pulling out in some way?
Well, it's not a question of pulling out because we are a European nation. We've got good relations with Germany and France and Italy and so on, and we would want to cooperate with them. But that isn't to say we are a part of the empire they are building up with the Eurozone and all the rest of it. And I think that would destroy our independence. And the Americans will just have to learn to live with the fact that Britain will have to decide how it wants to live with Europe. You can't have that imposed on it by the United States.
I mean, we will remain a part of Europe, whatever our membership of the European Union. But I mean, in terms of the technicalities, there are a lot of people in this country who think, as you did once upon a time, I don't know what your position is now, that we would be better off not part of that bureaucratic setup.
Well, I think I want to be governed in a democratic society where the people who govern us we elect, and we can remove them, and therefore they have to listen to us. And the truth is, in Europe, there is no such system. The people who run Europe are officials who are selected and appointed and not elected, and there's not much the Europeans now can do to deal with their leadership.